Full disclosure before starting this review, I was never afraid of clowns as a child. They just weren't something that scared me. Because when it came to the circus, I was much more horrified by the human cannonball. Because as a kid, I thought they were blowing up people inside this cannon.
There you go. She's all ready, Captain.
Thanks, Billy.
So, the latest adaptation of Stephen King, the second adaptation of his beloved It novel, the first being the now famous TV miniseries with Tim Curry, which I've watched it, guys, and honestly, I refuse to believe there has ever been a point in history when people found this legitimately scary because, seriously, do you find this scary?
Excuse me, sir. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out.
Yeah, Mike Hanlon. That I had to go. That I had to get cleaned up. Hell yeah.
Seriously, it's Tim Curry in a clown costume asking if you have Prince Albert in a can. I mean, that's hilarious. That is legitimately really funny. And Tim Curry, the problem with the movie is Tim Curry's just too funny in the movie. And because of that, it's not scary. But I will say this, the first half with the kids was legitimately good. The second half with the adults is awful. But here we are years later with the feature-length film version released in theaters, and all I can say is, my God, is this fantastic. So, in case you don't know the story of it, it is about it's about a small town in Derry, Maine, in which a bunch of kids start to go missing there, and other people, including one kid's younger brother, who has been taken by a demonic clown called Pennywise the Dancing Clown, and from there it's a group of outcasts being terrorized by this clown and them coming together to try to fight it, whatever it is, and that's a lot of the movie. Let's get to the good bad of this movie. So the good, let's say it how it is. The kids in this movie, my God, whoever casted this film deserves an award and should be known as the greatest casting director of all time, just for the fact when you get kids in a movie, it's always a gamble on whether or not they can act because they're kids, but the fact that this casting director, did not just find one, not two, but seven kid actors, and they are all absolutely brilliant in their roles, is just unbelievable. The kids in this film are just so good. They feel so real. They swear, they smoke, they say horrible things, they make crass jokes, and it all feels so real. You buy into their friendship so much. You really believe that these group of people would have this deep of a bond with each other, and it's just fantastic. You love watching these kids. You just really just believe everything about them, and my God, are they just excellent. And if I had to say who was the best, I'd say out of all of them, I would say Jordan Liberian as Bill, mainly for the fact that he had to pull off a very convincing stutter. I mean, the fact of how convincing this is a kid actor, like pulling off an incredibly well done stutter, and it just works great. That and Sophia Lillis as Beverly, just. She's also incredible because the fact that they fully go into, like, all the crazy, like, the really dark shit that happens to her, and, like, the fact that she's able to so perfectly convey that is just amazing. And these are all unknown actors. The most known kid is, they have Mike from Stranger Things in it, but besides that, all these kids I've not seen anything else, and they're just all brilliant actors. I loved watching every single one of them. Would have been fine. This movie just kept going for another hour. I just loved watching all of these seven play off each other, and they're all so great, so relatable, so likable. The kids in this film are just wonderful. I loved watching these kids play off each other so much that I was legitimately bummed out when the thought crossed my head, oh wait, part 2, that's gonna be them as adults, and because I was just really sad by the prospect we're not gonna see these group of kids again playing off each other, fighting a killer clown, which made me pretty upset that this is all gonna get from the kids section. But it's not just the kids though. Bill Skarsgård as It, or Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Like I said, I've never been afraid of clowns, but after seeing this movie, I get where you're coming from if you're afraid of them, because my God, I can't even imagine what this movie would be like if you are afraid of this clown. If you are afraid of clowns, this movie must just perfectly exemplify your worst fears of what clowns could possibly be. Because my God, is Bill Skarsgård horrifying in this movie? Because he's legitimately creepy. He's legitimately scary. I have heard the argument that there's absolutely no way he will ever be as iconic as Tim Curry, but to be fair, Tim Curry is not scary because, like I said, don't get me wrong, Tim Curry is amazing in the original version. I mean, that is incredible seeing Tim Curry saying, do you have Prince Albert again, but it's, like I said, it's not scary though, because it's just too over the top and goofy. I'm not afraid of the image of Tim Curry as a clown. I want to spend time with Tim Curry as a clown because he's hilarious. But Bill Skarsgård is legitimately unsettling and legitimately creepy. So even though I don't think he'll ever be as iconic as the Tim Curry version of Pennywise, he's actually scary, unlike the Tim Curry version of Pennywise, which is very important in a horror movie to be legitimately scary. So I have to say that technically this is a better performance, if not as memorable performance as Tim Curry, because unlike the original TV miniseries, this version, unlike the original, which was basically just Tim Curry in a clown costume going nuts, this movie, what they do with Pennywise the Clown is legitimately unsettling, because there's just something incredibly off about him this entire film, both through the acting and the makeup and visual, because from a visual standpoint, he's just kind of odd, like he doesn't move properly, like his moving's always, he always moves very twitchily, like he doesn't quite understand how to move properly, his eyes aren't exactly aligned, they're just slightly off enough that you notice, and it looks bizarre, his mouth is always somewhat gaped open, and and from an acting standpoint, his voice is always very kind of raspy and lispy, like he doesn't fully understand how to speak properly, and it's legitimately unsettling because he does just seem like, unlike Tim Curry, who just seemed like a guy in a clown costume, this does just seem like not a person. It just feels like someone trying to mimic a human, and it feels just off and makes it all the more unsettling because of it. So Bill Skarsgård is very unsettling. And that does bring me to my next point, which is, for a horror movie, this is always a very important thing. Is this a scary movie? Yes, this is a very scary movie. I mean, this movie just has some horrific, just downright horrific imagery in it. I see everything, but I was shocked by some of the things this movie was willing to show. I knew how, I've never read the book It, but I saw the miniseries and I knew where certain plot points were gonna go. There were just scenes that, even though I knew what the payoff was gonna be, I was just shocked seeing how they showed it in this film. Just know when you go see this movie, just that opening scene with Georgie and seeing Pennywise in the sewers, well, just know what they show, that is don't think that's, the max is gonna get. Just to know it hits that level and it stays at that level throughout the film. So, just know that if that was too much for you to handle, get out then, because it doesn't let up from there. If you thought the kids in Stranger Things were having a hard time, I mean, they have nothing on the kids in this movie. This movie had me physically shaking in a few scenes, because the thing about the horror in this movie, I have heard the complaints that a lot of it is just someone going, the clown going boo, but yeah, there is that, but like when shit gets intense in this movie, when their lives are being threatened, it is legitimately upsetting, the horror in this movie, because, well, one, they're kids, so it's just upsetting to see kids being terrorized by a killer clown who's trying to eat them, but it's not just that, though. It's the fact that you love these characters so much. You love seeing these kids play off each other so much that it's just all the more upsetting when you just see them just crying and pleading for their lives. Just, it's hard to watch sometimes, and it's just really fantastically dark and upsetting, and that's what makes this movie so scary. It's the fact that you love these characters so much, and it's just so horrifying to see such horrible things happen to them, and like I said, like, they don't hold back at all with the imagery they're willing to convey in this film, so props to this movie for that. And the final point I want to bring up for what works about this movie is, this is the most heartfelt horror movie I have ever seen in my life. This is the only horror movie I think I've seen that clearly tries to play into, like, tug on your heartstrings more than anything else, because really this is a movie, even though this movie is sold on the killer clown, this really is this movie about just these kids and their friendship, and it is incredibly heartwarming, and I was getting legitimately teary-eyed by the end, like, some of the final images, like, when one of the characters, like, after the climax, like, has a revelation, and, like, how his friends try to comfort him, it's legitimately heartwarming, and it's the most heartfelt horror movie I've ever seen. Like, as a lot of people have been striving in, it's basically Stand By Me, just instead of trying to find a dead body, they're trying to kill a killer clown, so, you know, same thing, but still though, it's just such a heartfelt movie, and it really does do a good job at pulling at all of the heartstrings. But this wasn't a perfect movie. There is two major issues with this film. With one, there is some bizarre tonal shifts in this film. There's two scenes in particular which everyone brings up, the cleaning scene and the rock throwing scene, and yeah, I'm with everyone. It is just such a bizarre tonal shift from what's going on. I guess it's supposed to be just kind of relief from all the misery and horror going on in this film, but it just feels weird, and honestly, it would have just been better just to have the kids bantering some more, too, just for comedy relief, because the banter in this movie, especially between the two kids, the germaphobe one and the kid from Stranger Things, is, they're really funny. Like, yeah, they banter with each other, but, just those two scenes were just so bizarre, I have no idea what they were going for, and the other main issue is, even though, like I said, I do think the horror in this movie is actually very good, just for the fact it is very upsetting what's happening to these characters, the pacing in this first half does get very repetitive, because the first half of this movie, it's essentially just, you meet a kid, the clown scares them, move on to the next kid, introduce them, clown scares them, onwards and onwards until they're all united and they all say, hey, I've all seen a killer clown, let's go kill it. So just know that there is some pacing issues with this film. But just as a side note quickly, I'd like to thank this movie for finally explaining to me what "you'll float down here" means, or "you all float down here."
They float, Georgie. They float.
Yeah, I never understood what that was about until I saw this movie. Thank you, movie, for explaining that to me. So, just to summarize my thoughts on it one more time, the kids, my god, are they all fantastic. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise. It's a very scary movie, and it is just such an incredibly heartfelt movie. As far as negatives go, some tonal issues and some pacing issues, but besides that, like I said, fantastic movie, and that's why I'm going to give it a very solid 9 out of 10. I love this movie. This is just one of the best horror movies of the past decade. And in comparison to other Stephen King films, is this the best? Well, There's always the issue whenever Stephen King adaptation comes out, it always does have to be measured against Shawshank, so I'll say this, it's, by all means, Shawshank is technically the better movie, like, it's just a superior film in general, but I will say this, while that's the technically better movie, this is the one I enjoyed more. I would say this is the most enjoyable Stephen King film I've ever seen, because like I said, I just loved watching every single moment of it. Like, I feel this will be the one that people, like, recommend to their friends and pass around at parties the most. Just because it is just such an incredibly enjoyable and heartfelt film. But, and as far as the horror films of Stephen King's go, like, I'd say this is the best, because really there's the only other two major ones I can think of. There's really only Carrie and The Shining, and Carrie is good. I do legitimately enjoy Carrie. My problem is I just don't find it scary at all, and it really is all about that last third. You're really just sitting through the first two-thirds for Carrie, just waiting for that last third to happen. That and The Shining, I don't find it scary for the most part, because once again, just Jack Nicholson is too over the top in his insanity for me to find legitimately scary presence, so yeah, I'd say it is definitely the scariest of the Stephen King adaptations, so I love it, go see it, it's fantastic. YouTube as always, please subscribe, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye.